Unacceptable fringe. 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 Unacceptable fringe.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe and happy Sunday. I hope you guys had a great weekend as we jump into the stream. And I don't know if you've noticed, but it's a little bit different around here tonight. We've done an upgrade to the stream. We've got new cameras, new lights, all thanks to the help of a good friend of mine and a visitor from this weekend that we're going to discuss on the stream. My good friend Clyde Do Something, who gave me a little bit of a technical lesson in how cameras and lights work. So it was a good opportunity to beef up the stream and try to get the channel back in order into a professional looking setting. And I can't thank him enough for his help this week. And I think it looks better. Let me know in the chat if you've been here before, if it looks better on the stream, and how the cameras look and how everything's looking as we move ahead. Not as much of the arcade in the background, but that's okay, because we're going to address some things tonight that have to do with the channel and where it's heading in the future. And we're going to get into that. Let's take a minute to hail the chat as we look in. Joe jumping in. I actually hung out with Joe over the weekend as well. Hand Purple Blue Peace. Joe, welcome into the stream. Hope you're doing well. Susan Collicott jumping in. Good evening from Vancouver Island. If you guys are in, let me know where you're from. It's always interesting to meet people from all over the place. Vancouver Island. I'm meaning to get out there at some point. I went out to British Columbia for my first time in September this year. And well, my first official visit. I've been there before for like a layover and stuff. And I really don't have a lot of experience around British Columbia. So Vancouver was the first stop just to kind of get a feel for the city. I wanted to take my kids to the aquarium this year and get a little bit of a breather holiday. So we went out to Vancouver and I hung out with my good friend Clyde Do Something while I was there. And yeah, it was really good to get out there and meet Clyde. I wanted to get to the island. It's just we were only there for a few days. I didn't have time, but I've been told the island is gorgeous and I can't wait to get out there and check it out. Of course, my wife jumps in. Mrs. Fringe says, "Looks great. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoy the look. Lighting is good," says Joe. "Great. Looking very good," says Rita. Rita, welcome into the stream. How you doing? Papa Brad jumping in. Papa Brad, how you doing? And he's down in Louisiana. If you guys are into video games, go give Papa Brad a follow. He's got some great projects on the horizon from what it sounds like. And despite what I'm going to talk about on this channel moving forward tonight, it will be the end of gaming on this channel, well, arcade content, but I think Papa Brad is definitely somebody who's good to watch in the community. Him and Brooklyn Menace and his friends have great Friday night streams where they play arcade games together and talk about software that's come out for the platform and also their opinions on arcade. So go check him out. Give him a follow. Great guy. Good trusted friend. Alberta Cowboy jumping in. High River, Alberta. Alberta representing in the place. How you doing? Welcome in. Love High River. You won't regret it. Vancouver Island is beautiful. I've been told, and I'm looking very forward to getting out there at some point in the future. Love your channel from Gatineau, Quebec. I wanted to get to Gatineau as well when I was in Ottawa. I've been told good things about Gatineau, and I didn't have a chance to get, even though it's right on the border. Love the look of Quebec. I really want to get out there at some point. Looks good here on Upper Vancouver Island. Man, everybody coming in from the island tonight. That's great. Canada RV jumping in. Hello, sir. Canada RV, how you doing? Welcome into the stream. How was the day after the hot wings? We're going to get into that. We are going to get into that. Papa Brad with a thank you. Papa Brad, don't mention it by any means. I'm happy to endorse what you're doing. And thank you for coming into the stream. I appreciate you coming by. And speaking of Papa Brad and arcades, a lot went down last week. I don't know if you guys have noticed, if you come to my channel, I've pulled all of my arcade content. And there was a bit of a scary situation that developed Thursday early afternoon. I talked about it on my video that I was quick to launch, and I since pulled that video because honestly, I was angry at the time, and I think it was an overreaction. I think I jumped the gun. But I'll just be honest and say up front right now that before I made this video, that video that I pulled, I was debating based on a threat came through from an anonymous person that threatened swatting on the house. They had a picture of my family, and my Facebook profile is private. I understand there's ways to get those photos now that I've spoken with the police, which, you know, we had to file a report for the sake of filing a report. So it was on with the police, so they knew about it. But they've assured me that, hey, unless somebody acts on this, the chances of finding these people are 1,000,000 to 1. And I was a little alarmed about it. I was talking to Papa Brad about it when he reached out to me about his future projects Thursday night. And I shared with him the messages that I received and, you know, that I was debating getting out of the arcade community because at the end of the day, I want my household to be safe. But at the end of the day, there were videos coming out that had their opinions, and that's their business. I don't want to shed any light on that stuff. They're free to do what they want. But I'm going to make it clear that I was jumping the gun, and it may have sounded like I was blaming that channel for what happened Thursday afternoon. I can't say that because that video came out after the fact. And I don't know who did what. So all I did was, that was the nail in the coffin. That video was the nail in the coffin for me to say, I've been sitting around all day thinking about whether or not I'm going to do this content going forward. And well, let's get into that. I've made a statement, and I want to get into that statement because I think it's important to share that with the community. And again, proof of the engagement. A lot of people were asking for proof. It has been sent to Papa Brad. I asked him to forward it to Brooklyn Menace so that pictures of my family weren't being spread all over the internet. Now they're in the arcade community. If they want to share that with people, that's up to them. Preferably not visually sharing it, but just confirming. And again, I've left that with Brad, but that will be my exit. And I've prepared a little bit of a statement because I wanted to be extra careful about how I word things. So let's go over that. Let's go over what we're going to do on this channel. Some recent behavior in the arcade community made me reconsider sharing with the world what I've been doing with my collection. I'm not going to get into any more of it. I don't care to relive what happened Thursday afternoon. As a side note, I made this YouTube channel as an extension of what I'm doing creatively for my company. And unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, my company makes books at the end of the day. And I hate to sound unapologetic about this, but I'm going to keep talking about it. So maybe get used to that, I guess. That's what you're getting here. I enjoy the gaming hobby, and the arcades are a passion of mine. Regardless of my views on calling out companies and their quality and my issues. But I've been put off by the behavior in the community, and I just don't want to be a part of it anymore. I'm still obviously going to keep collecting products, whether it's toys, arcades, anything that interests me. But I'm going to keep that stuff to me, like to myself in the future. I'm not going to broadcast it on this channel. I feel it's a bit of a disappointment because unless, if there's less people talking about games online, it's only going to lead to less engagement in the community, which really means less support for the community. And it's one that, whether or not I like a product or not, I like to support it, but unfortunately won't be going forward. Take of that what you will. I've been told don't mix politics and gaming. All right, sure. No more gaming, I guess. My country's going through something unprecedented right now. And I'm definitely going to put that first at the end of the day. I think it's important to cover that stuff. But to be serious, I'm not going to make arcade videos anymore. But if it comes up as a topic in my streams, I'll entertain questions. But I'm just not going to go out of my way to be focusing on arcade content anymore. I'm above it, and that's all I'm going to say about it. We're not going to shed light on that anymore because this is no longer an arcade channel. So moving on, let's get into this weekend, because boy, was this weekend insane as Canada RV jumping in. How was the day after the hot wings? Well, let's get into that. My good friend Clyde Do Something, who I owe a lot of what I've done in the last year or two, as he's been a very good influencer, I'll say, in what I've been brought forth as a product. But he was invited down here for the weekend. We've got close connections to those who were involved in the Freedom Convoy, and it's no surprise because we've had Tamara Leach on the channel before, as well as different board members. Clyde, of course, has had everyone in the Freedom Board, from Keith Wilson to, well, I guess he's not on the board, but from the lawyers, from Keith Wilson to Eva Chipiuk. He's had Tamara Leach on the stream, which we had on Friday for a first appearance. He's spoken with a number of people to do with the streams, or with the Freedom Convoy, and going forward, he's going to have a lot more content coming through, of course, with the help of his friend Joe, which I had the pleasure of meeting for the first time on Saturday when Clyde was here. Clyde came down for a Freedom Convoy event, I guess. It was a Freedom March that took place in Red Deer, and we wanted to see what it was all about. And I know Tamara was going up there, so I reached out to her after inviting Clyde down for the weekend and said, why don't you come here? We'll all break open a couple of cold ones and have some fun. And you can join in on Clyde's live stream. Boy, was it fun. It's it was a lot of fun, but it was also deadly, because what happened was, with Tamara's bail conditions, if you've been following Tamara Leach in the news, with her bail conditions, she's not to be posting on social media. She's not to be on any social media platform. And since YouTube is not considered a form of social media, but more video, I forget the way Clyde termed it, but it's not considered a part of social media when it comes to the clause in her, I guess, video distribution is what the site is considered to be, in a sense. So for her to appear on the stream, she's perfectly within her legal boundaries to come onto the stream, so long as we're not discussing things that, which is part of her bail conditions, talking about the Freedom Convoy or talking about anything related to the Freedom Convoy. So Clyde came down, and we had plans for Tamara to come on, and she showed up and came into the stream. And it was great. It was great to give her a voice, because for the last 8 months, or year almost, I guess, I shouldn't say 8 months. I'm thinking of since the second time she was released from jail. But for the last year, she's been silenced by the Canadian government and told, you're not allowed to talk about the Freedom Convoy because we're worried you're going to create another uprising. You're going to create more problems within the political community. What I find funny about the whole situation, we've talked about it to great extent on my videos, is that Tamara, she's got a lot of influence, but I don't see another convoy had. What happened with the convoy was the experience of a lifetime. It was like a Woodstock almost. It caught the country by storm. And even if those organizers were to try to set up, another style of event, I don't see that taking off. I don't see it having the same level of impact that the original Freedom Convoy in 2022 had on Canada, or on the international stage for that matter. And that's not to discredit them. I just think that it was such a unique set of circumstances that propped this movement, so to speak, where people were fed up with mandates. They were sick of being locked in their homes and told that they can't go to restaurants, they can't go to movie theaters. get the hokey pokey or don't go out in public, lose your job. And these guys made their trek to Ottawa to fight against those things. Now, from my understanding, the original convoy was out to protest the use of the ArriveCan app and its arbitrary measures of spying on people's phones, distributing their information between third parties, and kind of alerting the government as to all your personal information that is yours as a right. But as you know, the word got around and the rumors sparked of the Freedom Convoy making their journey to Ottawa, they started to adopt more of, well, we're going for the mandates. We're going for everyone's rights and freedoms. The highways, the roads, overpasses were all just littered with people, with signs, with flags, with messages of hope and cheering them on as they drove from city to city across the West Coast all the way to Ottawa, from the East Coast all the way to Ottawa, and then lining the streets with hundreds and hundreds of semi-trucks, thousands and thousands of protesters joining in. It was a movement that was unprecedented and one that I don't think, like I said, could ever be matched in that level of capacity again. I know for myself, I've always said that I was proud to be Canadian, but over those few years when things were starting to dwindle in terms of morale, it came to a questionable point where it's like, am I really proud to be Canadian anymore? Because Canadians usually speak up. We usually defend each other. We're usually against any form of, I don't want to say tyranny, but any form of pushback that doesn't come out as the right way to do things. And I wasn't seeing it over those few years. And I know a lot of people weren't seeing it over those few years, but it came to a point where as soon as the Freedom Convoy came, and I remember the first time I had seen the footage, I saw the footage when they were landing in Calgary, and they were at the Flying J truck stop, and there was hundreds of trucks overflowing the parking lot. I seen a clip on the news about it, and then I started to watch on YouTube as live streamers were picking up the content as they were driving across the country. The first content that I had seen was when they were crossing a town called Headingley, which is literally on the border of the outskirts of Winnipeg. And kids over the CB radios telling truckers, thank you for getting our lives back. And I've talked about it before where my daughter turned to me and said, are the truckers going to get our freedoms back? And I almost cried because it was like a 7-year-old girl is more concerned about not putting a covering over her face and being allowed to hang around her friends. Now, keep in mind, she was in kindergarten when these lockdowns started. So for 2 years, she was told you can't sit at a lunch table with other kids. You can't play outside. You can't run around. We can't have physical education class because sweating and germs being spread. You can't have sleepovers. You can't go to birthday parties. You can't have people over at your home. Social development for kids especially went completely down the toilet. So to have a 7-year-old girl's top concerns be, am I going to get my life back, was very emotional for me to watch and say, I sure hope so. So for the next 3 weeks, I was glued to the TV watching all of these live streams and everything that was going on throughout the Freedom Convoy. And of course, the Canadian government invoking the Emergencies Act and trampling people with horses and calling an end to things. Well, I mean, let's just face it. That in itself was unprecedented. Something I never thought I'd see my government do. And that's what caused this whole uproar in the political community of people saying the government's gone too far. We have rights as citizens. These things shouldn't be happening here. And yeah, it was crazy. So when the government silenced Tamara, the first time it was bail conditions not to go on social media, not to talk convoy with anybody or be around anybody linked to the Freedom Convoy unless in the presence of legal representation. Now, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, or the JCCF, honored Tamara Leach with, at the time, they were providing her legal counsel, and they honored her with a Freedom Award for her efforts with the Freedom Convoy. And I will acknowledge right now that there were more people involved in the Freedom Convoy than Tamara Leach, but for the same reason, when our newest book hit the market, was focused around Tamara, is because whenever you've seen things being covered in the news, whenever you've seen things in the media, it was strictly because like she was basically labeled as the face of the convoy. She was always the one at the press conferences talking on behalf of the convoy and being the voice of the convoy. So it was very fitting that she would be given this Freedom Award on behalf of the Freedom Convoy. And when she accepted her award, one of the convoy members, Tom Marazzo, was at the event. Tom's a great guy. I hope to have him on the channel soon. We've talked about it back and forth over and over again. But I'm definitely looking forward to having him on the channel. A great friend and friend of the channel. Tom Marazzo took a photo with Tamara with her award with numerous other people. Unfortunately, in that photo, it was cropped where the lawyers were standing in that photo. So the lawyers were not directly behind Tamara. And because of that, certain people that we've discussed again on the streams had contacted authorities and said, lock her up. She's violating her bail conditions. She's with convoy people, and she was thrown back in jail to a time where another judge, well, the first judge was technically a justice of the peace. The second time around, it was an actual judge who came in and said that these charges were arbitrary, that she should not have been arrested. She should not have spent time in jail. And they allowed her to go free on her previous conditions a second time. So the second time around, Tamara has been very careful about being involved in anything political or anything to do with convoy or anything to do with being on any form of social media or interviews or camera. So when we had her on the stream back at Christmas, of course, that we couldn't talk convoy. We couldn't mention convoy. I kept saying we can't say the C word. But we had to be careful. We had to be very careful. Now, of course, talking with legal such as Eva Chipiak and Keith Wilson, they've been very helpful in terms of their advice as to what to do. As again, they are not Tamara's actual lawyers going forward with her charges, but they are great friends of hers. They're good friends of mine, and they've been very helpful in terms of what we can and cannot do. So Tamara jumped in on the stream with Clyde and myself Friday night, which was crazy because I thought it was great that Clyde was coming here from British Columbia to spend the weekend. And not only were we going to have Clyde here, but it was Clyde's opportunity to have Tamara on his channel because he'd been trying to get that happening for a while. And it was insane. Like the flight that he could organize. So let's get into what Clyde did over the weekend. The flights that he'd booked, the only flight he could get, I believe, based on his schedule, landed about 5:30 p.m. in my city, and his stream was to start at 7:30. Now, we didn't use any of my equipment for his stream. He brought his own equipment because Clyde is talking about taking his show on the road. He's going to Japan next month, or I believe at the end of this month. I keep saying next month because I feel like I'm still in January. But Clyde wanted to get a mobile setup going, and this was his opportunity to test it. So when he first was talking about landing, I said, hey, we're going to have time. We're going to have time to get to the house. Like it's about a half-hour drive to the airport from my house. I said, we're going to have time, so don't worry about it. And I goofed. I tripped over my own feet and said, we're going to have time, but I didn't consider the fact that it was rush hour traffic. And of course, anytime I have to be somewhere in this gigantic city, there's always something that stops me from going. There's always somebody who drives really slow or somebody who causes a problem. And sure enough, 3/4 of the way back to the house was fine. We ordered takeout food to pick up and eat as we were going to set up, which was cold because we were so late, but there was an accident blocking us from getting through the only road that got us to the house. And we arrived to the house with 15 minutes to spare before setting up his stream. So a lot of people had said that our audio was too bassy. The cameras were a little foggy at first because we were still figuring out the setup in terms of the resolution and how we were going to run things with lights. And it was just a mad scramble, but it was good. I think the stream went really well. It was exciting to sit with Clyde because usually I'll watch his streams on Fridays. If you follow Clyde and you don't watch his live streams, you should definitely check them out. He does them every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. And it's kind of his chance to sit back and kick back with his community. And it's a fun time. I really enjoy hanging out with Clyde. So we sat back and did his stream here, but it was interesting to be a part of that stream instead of watching it. It was kind of like participating fourth dimensionally. But one thing we did do is that when I went to visit him in September back in Squamish, we went out to dinner, and Clyde's a big spice guy. Him and his wife can handle spice. Like she could breathe fire. I'm convinced, no problem. But Clyde got me into suicide wings. I'm not a big spice guy. I can handle spice very well. And again, you'll have seen it if you watched Clyde's stream. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Because again, that's in his channel. we were drinking and talking about these wings, and I picked up these wings, and he was doing a GoFundMe for Joe. Maybe you can put the young lady's name in the chat because it's escaping me at the moment. He's doing a fundraiser for a young lady who's running a Give Send Go, trying to raise $2,000 because she's going to Ottawa. She suffered strokes at a young age, and she's been offered maid service rather than a solution to her problems. And if you know what MAID is, it's a nice acronym of medical assistance in death or medically assisted suicide. The government's promoting it lately, and if you're not watching from Canada, part of what makes this appalling is that I think in any situation, and we talked about it in other videos, that if you're terminal and you're in pain and there's not really any options left, those things should be available, I think, for the sake of, showing some form of mercy. When it comes to the Canadian government, they have recently slowed down their push, I guess, but they were originally going to amend the bill in March to say that, I want to word this properly, so depression and anxiety is considered a disability in Canada. So they said, if you have a disability, you're able to request medical assistance in dying. And that basically means that if you're down in the dumps and you're depressed, you can go to not just a doctor, but any licensed medical practitioner and say, I'm done living. I'm depressed. I'm sad. And rather than them refer you to a counselor or put you on some kind of medication, they're obligated to say, well, if you're requesting medical assistance in death, that falls under these guidelines. Here's your paperwork. We'll get things started for you and we'll shoo you out the door. So this young lady who was raising money is going to protest this, and she needed funding to go to Ottawa. So I made an offer for Clyde's channel because I really wanted to raise awareness to her campaign, as well as get her some funds raised for her campaign. So what we did was we bought these suicide wings. We asked them for as hot as they get. Annabelle, here it is here. Let's pop her name up. Annabelle Purcell. I'll see if I can grab a link to her Give Send Go before the end of the stream so we can get that posted up. Annabelle Purcell was raising this money so she can go protest the amendments to this bill because, again, she suffered seizures. She's suffered multiple medical conditions, but she's been told to take medical assistance in death rather than face treatment for her problems, which I don't agree with. So what I offered the channel was I threw down a $70 super chat and said that if anybody matched or beat my super chat even by a penny, I would match that super chat up to $200 to go towards her campaign because I wanted to encourage people to donate and get money over there. And wouldn't you know it, I figured somebody would have thrown in, $70.25 or something. But sure enough, a $100 super chat comes in, and then seconds later, a $400 super chat came in. And rather than try to decide, do I just do the 100 since that came first? We said, no, let's do the whole 200. We'll go to the max. So we threw $200 at it for some shade, and some people from the stream were very generous. They went forward and started throwing money at Annabelle's crowdfunding campaign. And I wish her the best of luck. I really hope that things work out with her protest and that she's able to make it happen. So again, I will try to pull a link to that Give Send Go. In fact, let me see if I can find it right now. Just in case anybody wants to donate to that, there's no obligation. I don't want anybody to feel like they have to, but should you ever want to donate to a good cause, I think this one's worthy. She had a great interview with Clyde. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words now because I'm trying to find this information while chatting. She's currently at $1,220 out of the $2,000 she's needing to raise. But here's a link in the stream for anybody wanting to go check that out. And I'll put that up on the screen for anybody watching this afterwards. if they want to go donate to Annabelle's Give Send Go campaign. She's so close to hitting her goal and getting things out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I hope that she's able to go. I'm glad that we were able to support it. I'm glad that everybody was so generous on Clyde's stream to throw money towards it. And I wish her all the best. I wish her all the best. And Clyde was happy to see that too. It's yeah, it's great. Let's hit up some of the chat because I've been yip yapping. I'll get back to the stream with Clyde. I see Kabod Crane. I'm sorry, or Ichabod Crane. Jesus. I'm looking at the caps and the lowers. It's Ichabod Crane. I'm sorry, Ichabod. Dude, I just wanted to say, as an American liberal, I respect your approach to politics. I sub to watch your arcade content. I'll continue to watch. I appreciate that. We made a statement earlier about that content on the channel. You can always go back in the VOD and watch that if you missed it, as to where we're going forward. But we will not be discussing what happened last week again or any other drama. We're just moving on. Because who needs it? We don't need it in this channel, and we're just going to move on. Susan jumping in. Amazon says my book will be here by 10 p.m. tonight. I sincerely hope you enjoy it. Of course, we had our copies on Clyde's stream Friday night, and we had a blast with it. I almost wanted Tamara to read the book while we were doing that, because boy, would it have been great for her to read the book about her on the stream. That would have been pretty fun. But a gamer coming in. Clyde Do Something is great. I like that channel. And there, you know what? It's worthy of liking that channel. Clyde is fantastic with his work. He's a very smart individual. I have a great deal of respect for Clyde and how he runs things on his channel. He's very organized. Unlike some people, he's very organized and he's very good with his content. He does his homework. And if you're going to watch anybody who wants to give you the whole story, I don't think there's anybody more notable to give that information than Clyde. I don't think there's anybody more worthy than Clyde. He could definitely wield Mjolnir if he wanted to. I could tell you that. He's definitely worthy. So go give Clyde a follow or a subscription, I guess you could call it. I always say follow because I'm used to Twitter. Go give him a sub if you haven't already. He breached 100,000 subs just before Christmas, I believe. And he's now verified on YouTube. So congratulations again to Clyde. But let's talk more about the stream, shall we? So not only was I going to donate to this Give Send Go, but I said that these hot wings that we ordered from a place in town called Hudson's, that there were 10 in the box. I said I'll eat all 10 as quickly as I can. If somebody matches the donation, so that we could donate to this Give Send Go. And if you've ever watched Hot Ones on YouTube, Hot Ones is a great show. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's a talk show where they do 10 wings and they move up the Scoville scale on 10 different hot sauces, and interview celebrities about their careers and about movies they're doing. And they move up the ladder. And the final, hot sauce that they get to on Hot Ones is one that they make themselves called the Last Dab. Now, traditionally what happens with the Last Dab when they get to that one is they call it the Last Dab. So they put a little dab on the wing, because of its Scoville rating, and they take it and, usually they play it off like it's not that bad. Because again, they're just putting a little drop on the wing. Now, the wings that we picked up was part of a challenge that this restaurant was issuing, where they brought in this sauce and they coat the wings in this sauce. It's not just a dab. So I ordered 2 portions of these wings. One of them Clyde ate after the stream. So while I was sitting in my drunken stupor, drinking out of my giant glass Das Boot filled with Jack Daniels as we sat in the stream, as soon as that came through, I thought, yeah, okay. And I'll be honest, those wings, usually if you have hot wings or suicide wings, I've been to restaurants where they bring them out and you can smell the heat, like when they come out of the kitchen. And it's so disgusting that you don't want to eat them. Like, you don't enjoy them. I get that there's the shock value of I'm going to eat suicide wings, but ultimately you'd like to enjoy them, I would think. Now what happened is these wings, you couldn't really smell the heat. So they make it proper. They make this sauce proper. I'll give them props for that. It's we'll get to that, Joe. We need to clip Tamara showing you the one you missed. So I'll talk about that too, because what happened was I started to eat these wings, and as I ate the first one, I thought it's not so bad. It was actually enjoyable. The wing tasted really good. The sauce is good, but it creeps up. Like you eat it, swallow it, and I thought, oh, I'm not gonna have a problem with this. I think it's just there for shock value, to make you think you're eating this hot sauce. Now, Joe did his research while we were on the stream and found out that these have a 2 million Scoville rating on this sauce in terms of heat, which is extremely high. And as soon as you swallow it, it's like it creeps up on you and your mouth is literally on fire. It just feels like a painful searing in your mouth, like you're breathing lava. So of course, what I do in my stupidity, in my half drunken fueled thoughts, was that I got to eat these as quick as I can. I gotta get them down because I've put my foot in my mouth. Not only did I just have to pay $200, which I was happy to a GoFundMe campaign or a Give Send Go, but now I put my foot in my mouth saying I'm going to eat these wings quickly, and I took them down as fast as I could, but my eyes were watering. I think there was water coming out of any hole on my head that would allow it. Joe says, is the one chip challenge next? If I can get my hands on it, I'll do it. I'll do it. But yeah, I put my foot in my mouth and said, yeah, I'll eat these as quick as I can. So I wanted to rush through them. And there's almost like this euphoric trance you get to by the time you get to about the 7th or 8th wing, where it's just like all time and space stops. It ceases to exist. And I could hear Clyde and Tamara talking about different things. I can't even recollect what they were talking about because I was just focused on, you're a moron. Just eat these and get it over with. And sure enough, I thought I got through them and I was done. And I showed Clyde, I said, there, you can verify it's over. It's done. We're all having a laugh. I was sweating. I was tearing up. My nose was running. My stomach felt like somebody threw gasoline in it and dropped a match, like, and maybe put like a pound of nails in there. It was so bad. Like, again, I think that not only does it creep up into your mouth after you eat it, but it's like it has this creep up effect in your stomach where it literally feels like your stomach's like a stone pizza oven. And it was insane. It was literally insane. So I stood up and I'm like, I'm done. Now they put celery and carrots in the box. And I could have sworn, again, in my euphoric state, I was over with. And I'm walking away and Tamara says, oh, I think there's one left in the bottom there. And I was like, please, no. And I was praying to God she was wrong. And I start digging through the celery and sure enough, there's one hanging out at the bottom. So I'd been finished eating for a good 30 seconds. And not only because I'd barreled through them, they were really starting to creep up at that point and go to almost like this inferno state in my mouth. And it was like, I don't want to add another one to that, but a deal's a deal. So I sat down with the most disappointed look on my face and people in the chat were going wild. Like Clyde's chat was off the rails Friday. I think he had 500 or 600 viewers at a time in the channel. A total of, I think, 6,000 over the 2-hour stream. He did really well. Very engaging stream. It was really good to see, for his benefit anyway. And I barreled through these wings and then I just kind of sat there while they interviewed each other and chatted for a bit and sat in this euphoric state to try and get over the pain that I was going through from these wings. And all I kept thinking of is they went down, but they're going to have to come out and that's going to hurt even more. I wasn't looking forward to it. I literally went to bed somewhere around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning Friday night. And my wife woke up and said, are you okay? And I just said, I couldn't sleep. Like I was rolling around sweating. My stomach was still on fire. This was like 4 hours, 5 hours later. And my stomach still burned. It was still hot. And even the next day when I woke up, I could still feel it in my stomach. I would not recommend eating those wings ever. Like those would be good if you bought them with like a couple of friends and much like the one chip challenge, if you each did 1 or 2, but to eat 10 of them back to back, it's crazy. and I'm certainly not trying to say that I could handle it. I couldn't. Clyde, I think, ate 7 or 8 of them after the stream, and even he quit and said it's too much. Like, I can't. And Clyde's pretty good with spice. He's not as good as his wife with handling spice, but Jesus, Clyde can sure handle it. Let's get back into the chat. Let's catch up with the chat here. Don't tell me you voted for Biden. You get your capital M later. Master of Snatch is in the stream. Welcome in, Snatch. Joe ate that nasty chip like a boss, a tearful, snot-covered red-faced boss. That's awesome. I didn't know Joe did it, and his nose was burning. Sweet. I'm going to have to try. I keep trying to find it, but the only place I can find it is online from, like, people selling it that, ripped off the whole supply from a store or something, and they've jacked it up to like $60 a chip or something, and I'm not paying that. So if I can ever find one and get my hands on one, then yes, I will do it. I'm assuming this was about Joe Biden. Sorry if I'm missing out on the chat here. The wing high plus a boot of booze. I had 3 boots full of booze by the time the night was over. So I had 2 on stream and a third one when we were finished. It was insane. We found it at a local candy store. Oh, that's good to know. Is that the one in Gasoline Alley? Because I usually go to that one when we go to see my mother-in-law. I'll check that out. I'll take a look next time I'm there. Made as an organ grab. I wouldn't know about that, but I could see how that could be possible, I guess, if you're a donor. Sad to cash in on suicide. I agree. And that's part of the reason why I think that bill needs to be amended. It's if you're following the convoy, if you're following the 4 Alberta boys in jail. Yes, I've heard about the Coots guys that are still in jail. We were actually talking about that over the weekend when we were at the Freedom March in Red Deer. Of course, my good friend Keith Wilson was there with us, super lawyer Keith Wilson. I call him Batman for short because he's got a great picture on, I think it's his Twitter profile, his banner that shows him sitting at his desk with about 16 monitors. And it reminds me of like Bruce Wayne sitting in the Batcave. And I always call him Batman. But he's a great guy. He's a great friend. And I know he's got a lot of things going on right now, but at some point I want to have Keith on the channel. I think it would be great to sit down with Keith Wilson and have a chat. Really looking forward to that. And he agrees at some point we're going to do it. Snatch, $60 for a chip. We're in the wrong business. Absolutely. Let's get into the spice business. I can consult with Clyde's wife since she's the master of spice. We'll find something that works. But yeah, no, I think they sell for like $25 or $30 regular. But what happens in my town, at least to my knowledge, because I've seen it on like Facebook Marketplace and stuff where people buy up the whole supply, and the stores, why they let people do this is beyond me. I get, free market or whatever you want to call it, but guys will go and buy up the entire crate and then go home and sell it online for double and make their money. And it's so stupid. Bauer Mall. Okay. I'll check that out, Joe. I'm in Red Deer quite a bit to visit family, so I'll check that out next time I'm there. You have to sign for them to take whatever they want from you after you expire. Proven government is selling organs from MAID patients. Jesus. What was this up here? Papa Brad, don't ever touch your eyes eating hot wings. So I made that mistake on Friday. I touched my eyes. I thought I washed my hands after, and I thought I got it all, but I didn't. And I wiped my eyes because they were still watering. And again, I was drinking this giant, like this size glass boot full of Jack Daniels and Coke, and I filled it past the heel of the boot with Jack Daniels. Like, it was strong. I drank an entire 40 of Jack that Friday night, and out of 3 boots. And stupid me, in my drunken stupor, I said, "Oh, my eyes are watering still. My stomach's on fire." And I went like this, and I was screaming. And that was after Clyde's stream, after I hijacked his chat. That was kind of a fun moment too. That was crazy. Snatch, come on, chat, show some love. Hit the like and subscribe. Yo, Snatch, I appreciate that. Yeah, hit the likes. What are we at for likes right now? My StreamYard doesn't tell me where we're at for likes, but yo, we got 23 people in the stream right now. Hit the like button. Let's get some likes going. Ichabod Crane, why put something in your mouth and stomach you know is going to hurt? Well, we did it to raise money for a friend, and I was all for it. I understand. I would question why anybody would at any time, but yes, no, it's for fun, right? So, Papa Brad, we're only at 22, guys. If you haven't hit the like, get that going, get that moving. Brad, I like on the way in. Thank you so much, Brad. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, Brad. Thank you so much. But yeah, Clyde's stream. He was interviewing Tamara, and again, for Tamara to be able to sit down and talk was a lot of fun. And I wanted to give her that moment to sit and chat. I didn't want to interrupt. So you know what? I'm gonna show this because Suzanne mentioned this. Clyde said the same thing. Do a bowl of sliced cucumbers and onions and vinegar. He just told me about cucumbers. Works in my family's from the Caribbean. So I was gonna get a glass of milk. Because I know for myself sometimes that works, but I didn't want to chicken out. I was like, I'm going to sell the drama. Let's do it. Let's just go full bore with it. Ichabod Crane says I meant the chip challenge. I have a red glass boot for drinking out of very rare. My brother-in-law gave me my glass boot, and I only drink out of it on special occasions. And again, Tamara was getting her chance to speak with Clyde. So I sat in the background and just kind of watched while I continued to medicate with alcohol and get beat up by Jack Daniels. And I finally got so bored waiting to jump into the interview that I was just like, you know what? I started hijacking Clyde's chat again. Go watch the video. It's got me coming in talking on Clyde's chat saying, look at him. He ignores his guests. Like, I'm sitting in the back here, and I wanted to see if he would notice primarily because he's got his laptop, a second monitor. He's got all this stuff feeding him analytics and information. And I wanted to see if he'd notice in the chat that I'm sitting there talking smack about him and hijacking his chat, telling people to go sub to my channel. He didn't pick up until it was over and I told him about it. It was pretty funny. So go check out the live chat. Go watch that stream. It was usually Clyde, again, because he does his Friday night streams. It's kind of a recap of the week. He does meme time where he goes over the memes that were posted in his Discord. And then he talks about the things he wants to talk about with his community. Whereas Friday's stream was kind of like an off the wall comedy hour because there was 3 of us in the room kind of just doing whatever we wanted. And it was a lot of fun. I keep saying to Clyde, if you just moved to Alberta, we could do this all the time. Wouldn't that be fun? I said I'd like to see like a Steven Crowder type setup for us. I think people would enjoy that, even if we did it like once a month or something. I think that'd be fun. I heard that papaya has enzymes that help break down the oils in spicy foods. I have not heard of that. That's good to know. Do you, I'm assuming that means, do you remember the flamethrower commercial? I was surprised you weren't breathing fire. So the flamethrower, I do remember that commercial. I've had the flamethrower. I quite enjoy the flamethrower burger. It's not as hot as they advertise though. But yes, I'm surprised I wasn't breathing fire. Also, again, all day, like for half the day Saturday on our way up to Red Deer, I could feel it in my stomach. Like my stomach felt like it was like an uncomfortable feeling. It was crazy. I can't believe Clyde is giving away all my cucumber secrets. Clyde loves his cucumbers. Now, Saturday morning, of course, I woke up with Clyde and Tamara. We got ready. Her husband, Tamara's husband, Dwayne, was with us, and Tamara's dogs were here. It was quite the 3-ring circus. But we got up Saturday morning. My kids and my wife went to spend the day with my mother-in-law and go do some fun stuff while we went to this Freedom March over in Red Deer. We met up, of course, with Joe Lyman, and we had a late lunch with the very honorable and respectful Keith Wilson. Again, super lawyer, or as I call him, Batman. We went and had lunch with Keith Wilson, his family, Eva Chipiuk, and her significant other, and Joe. And that was Clyde's first time sitting down, meeting them face to face. So we kind of had some time to sit down, chit chat, and kind of get a plan together before we went over to and clip Saturday morning. I woke up with Clyde. We all woke up is what I should have said and left. I woke up in my own damn bed with my wife and we left. God, Joe, you and your mind. I can't get away with these Looney Tunes in my stream. My community, I mean, they're Clyde's community too, but this community, they're awesome, and that's why I love doing politics, because you guys are great. It's fun to say. I can't get away with any. My words get stretched no matter what I say. I can't win, and that's okay. But we all left. We went for Red Deer. Ironically, we stopped in a town called Bowden. Tamara, needing to check out the facilities, and her husband was filling their truck with gas, and ironically, their dogs stepped on the lock of the truck doors and locked their truck. So not only were we late meeting Keith for lunch, but we were even later than we were supposed to be, because we had to wait for a locksmith to show up and open the truck, because the keys were inside the truck and the dog stepped on the lock on the door. And of course, you get this random guy who lives in this small one-horse town who pulls up and says, "You guys locked out of your truck?" And I said, "Yeah," because Clyde was hoping maybe he had a coat hanger or something in the back of his truck. And I used to work for a towing company in my 20s, and I said I could get in there if I had a coat hanger or something that I can get down into the door lock. Clyde works as a mechanic for a living, so we easily could have got in if we had the right tools. But this guy, he pulls up and he says, "You should always keep a spare set of keys. They got magnetic ones that sit in your engine and everything." And we're kind of sitting there standing out in the cold going, "Yeah, thanks, jackass. Thanks, Captain Obvious." Any other words of wisdom for us while we're standing here waiting to get back in the truck? Like, he couldn't predict the dog was going to stand on the door. Like, I just always love people like that when you're in a conundrum like that, they don't say, "Oh, well, best of luck to you," or something. They have to throw in that snide comment of, "Well, you should have a spare set of keys." Yeah, no shit. Like, come on. You want to take a dig? Give me a break. So I drove with Clyde. Clyde was riding with them. I put Clyde in my car with the family, and we drove up. So Keith wasn't waiting, but we sat down for lunch. Tamara followed shortly after. They weren't waiting very long. It was a crazy day. Captain Obvious, my superhero name was Captain Obvious. Captain Blackface if you're the Prime Minister. But we went to this. So after lunch, we headed over to this March for Freedom. We actually had to park considerably far back from the grounds which this rally was being held on. I don't even call it a rally; like more like a get together. They had several horses going up and down the highway with their flags and talking about government oppression and the freedom movement. And as we got onto the grounds, the snow was starting to melt. We get what's called Chinooks in Alberta, if you're unfamiliar with them, the warm air that comes over the mountains. Anytime we get snow, it tends to melt very fast. We don't keep snow for long periods of time in Alberta. We keep snow, but it's usually only like an inch or so. Like, it's not 5 feet or, Arctic tundra. So this parking lot where on these grounds of this acreage, I guess you could call it, where this gathering was, it was just a big mud pit by the time we got there. So we were walking in about 3 inches of mud to get around and talk with people, but it was great for Clyde. I thought it was fantastic. A lot of people there recognized him, which was great. He got a chance to talk politics with a lot of people. We took some photos with people, shook hands, did some promo stuff for work, which was great. It's a little bit of networking. Talked a little bit about our newest release, which was great. And speaking of which, one thing I really benefited from Clyde being here was not only did he hook up this sweet new camera setup for me, because I can't understand technology, because I bought this camera last week and I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out how to adjust it and get it working properly. But Clyde's a genius when it comes to that stuff, so he got it working in 2 seconds. He also uses the same camera for his, so he knew how to use it. That was the reason I bought it. Suzanne, I got to run. Take care. Thank you so much for coming into the stream. I appreciate you hanging out here tonight. Always good to see another community member hanging out and having fun. Have a great night. So Clyde helped set up this camera, but not only that, one great thing that he did was he showed me a lot of ins and outs about YouTube that I didn't know, and how to get things working a certain way with scripting, with video layouts and things like that, which is good because now I've got all of my books in my descriptions, our products, our hoodies. I keep seeing in the comments all the time whenever I wear my Unacceptable Fringe gear on stream, people say, "Oh, where can I get that?" And I keep having to post links. I'm a newbie at YouTube. I don't know the ins and outs. And the problem with being a full-time father to 3 kids, I don't really have a lot of time to research that stuff or think about it. I just run and say, what I'm doing is working. But what Clyde did, which is really great, is gave me a little bit of insight as to here's how these things work. Here's how YouTube works. Here's how setting up your videos works. And it was great to sit down and really learn from a guy as experienced as Clyde and get some pro tips from him how to do it, which means I don't have to plug my books as much as I do on my streams. Usually I'm talking about them a lot, and I get that I mention them a lot because ultimately, if somebody comes in that isn't aware of them, I know that when we started this channel, people came here because they'd seen me on interviews. They saw me on different news outlets, in the National Post, on all sorts of places, and said, "Oh, I want to get to know the guy who did these books, and I want to talk to him about his books." But I kept talking about them because if people were coming in and were unaware of what I did, well, hey, it's a business. We're trying to get people interested and aware of what we do. So now that Clyde showed me how to do that, I have to plug them far less, which is great because now we can talk about real things and we don't have to go back to all those things. And I don't have to look like a conceited prick talking about my projects over and over and over again. So I'm really grateful for Clyde coming down. I think one thing that's been the best thing to come out of what I've done with these books in the last year, a lot of people told me at this Freedom March on Saturday, you know, I love your books. My kids love the books. You know, you've done great things. One guy called me a hero, and I said, that's not me by any stretch of the imagination. I wrote a book. I just wrote something that was sending a message about the current state of our country in a comedic way. I don't consider any of that to be true, but I was very grateful for his comment. However, I think the best thing to come out of the success of this business was making friends with Clyde. And throughout the process, we've become good friends. And to have him come visit at the house was just fantastic, to really get some time to hang out, because I'd only seen him in person when we went to British Columbia in September, and that was just for about an hour and then dinner. So yeah, it was cool to hang out, spend some time. We played some arcades together. He whipped my ass at Street Fighter because he was playing versions of it that I've never touched. But hey, Clyde knows what he's doing when it comes to that stuff. But it was great. We had some Terminator 2. We played through probably half of the arcade game. Played some pinball together. It was a lot of fun. We had Double Dragon. We did a lot of gaming, and then we just kind of sat down and shot the shit for a while. And again, he showed me some ins and outs of YouTube, and he gave me a good talking to about what I should be doing moving forward with my channel. And it's so supportive when you can sit down with another content creator and go over those things and get pointers from somebody who's had the level of success on YouTube that Clyde has, because that information is invaluable. And for myself, when I take things to heart, when I get wrapped up in things, again, part of the reason I pulled my Friday video is because I kind of jumped the gun and said, when I looked at it afterwards, I said, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have put that out there. And again, if I was going to cease the content I was making on that one subject, I said, I'll just remove that too. I don't need any of it on here. I don't want that hanging over my channel. And I'll address it on stream, which we did earlier. And again, if you missed that, if you were in and you used to watch the arcade content, I discussed why we're not covering that and what we're doing moving forward. So you can always go back after this, watch the replay, check that out. But we're not discussing that anymore, aside from me saying I was grateful for Clyde's clarity. It was a moment of clarity. It was a moment to really look at the channel and say, I got to do better. And I appreciate everybody who has stuck around this whole time, who said that they like the content, that they come to watch, that they enjoy it. It's going to get better. So thank you so much for hanging in there. And thank you to everybody who comes here and puts up with my nonsense. And I really hope that we can do things better down the line. Well, I shouldn't say I hope. I know we're going to do things better down the line. But that's in part thanks to Clyde. And I really appreciate his friendship. It was great. It was great. Let's check up the chat. I love Frank Zappa. Joe's Garage was one of my favorite cassette tapes as a kid. Nice. Yeah, I don't mind some Frank. Maybe you should play with me. I think you could whip my posterior. I don't know. You know what? I'm questioning my Street Fighter skills after playing Clyde. We played Street Fighter Third Strike and Street Fighter Alpha, which I'm not really familiar with either of those, because Third Strike came out on the Dreamcast, and I have it in my Dreamcast collection, but I haven't really played it. I collected it for the sake of building my full library, but I never really played Street Fighter once it got past like the 50th iteration of Street Fighter 2. I think Super Street Fighter 2 was the last I played of Street Fighter for a while until the Xbox 360 Street Fighter 4 came out. Simply because I'd moved on to Mortal Kombat. I moved on to other games that I just never really went back to, because Street Fighter to me felt like old hat. But did you lose Street Fighter due to the 3 DOS boots? No, we played Street Fighter last night after we got back from Red Deer and set up all the equipment and went through all the technical stuff. But yeah, Clyde whipped my ass. I beat him a couple times. I had to get cheap and I beat him, but Clyde's got skill. There's a difference. You can win playing somebody in the arcades if you just want to be cheap and smack buttons, but Clyde had skill. I'll give him props on that. He had skill. But yeah, no, it was just fun to have some laughs. So I was happy to play T2 with him. That was a lot of fun because, again, in my arcade, the kids are often the ones that I'm playing with. You know, my friends come by from time to time, but some of my friends, the arcades don't really interest them. So, you know, I'll play T2 with my kids, but there's so many machines down here. They want to move from machine to machine that we don't really go through the game. So anytime I've played through T2, it's usually on my own. It was kind of fun to play through with a second person. It was a lot of fun. I was happy to do that with Clyde. Really, really happy to have him here. I prefer to let my Pokemon do that. That's a game I never really got into. I played Arceus though. I liked that on the Switch. I was a fan of that. I hope they do more games in that style because I could get into those. I like those. Let's talk about what's coming up this week. Of course, politics. We're getting back into politics. It's going to be all about politics. And I'm going to look at a few things that I want to talk about. I'm going to talk a little bit about Trudeau and what's coming up with elections, possibilities of elections. I want to talk a little bit about some of the hypocrisy going on in government, as well as our Premier, Danielle Smith, who's once again coming under scrutiny for anything she says, anytime she opens her mouth. I don't really want to spoil too much, but we'll have some videos talking about different things to do with the economy and different things to do with the government coming up. I don't want to commit to anything other than saying those will be the nutshell topics, simply because I've got about 15 different stories I'm currently looking at for what I'm going to make for a video tomorrow. And then I tend to use, like, I have a plan in case the news hasn't brought anything up throughout the day I'm going to film, where I can do my research. But again, until I know for sure those are the stories where I'm going to run, I don't want to speak out, because if I say they're coming and they don't, then I'm just contradicting myself. So this week, guys, again, there will be no more arcade content on the channel moving forward. It's going to be all based on political, not just political, but I think, like, if you ever watch The Quartering, I've always wanted to do politics, but talk about like Twitter drama, kind of the culture wars, cancel culture, things like that. I want to be a little bit like that. So it's not going to strictly be political. I want to talk about some things like the issues going on with Eliza Blue right now with The Quartering, Tim Pool, his ban with Tim Pool. I'd like to get into a lot of those things. So I'm going to try to do some of that this week. So it'll be a mix of politics with those kind of topics moving forward. I've dabbled in them before, but the problem was, again, I got into video game related content and I just kind of dropped that stuff while still mildly discussing politics. So we're going to go to a variety of the culture wars that include politics, if that makes sense moving forward. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Here's one that hit it on the head that I was looking at. BC hired Dr. Dina Heehaw, as I call her, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, with Bonnie Henry. Boy, is BC in trouble. I want to talk about that for sure. God, you guys are in trouble in BC. If she's going to do anything like she did with Alberta, you guys are in trouble. I feel bad. Danielle Smith always seems to be under scrutiny for the wrong things. I would love to see her answering questions of vote buying. I would like to hear about that too. But you know what? The thing is that these stories are going to come out because there's an election in May to secure her next 4 years. And Danielle Smith reminds me a lot of how Americans behaved with Trump. Anytime they have the littlest nugget to smear Danielle, they're going to do that. And it's only going to get uglier as we work up to May. They're really going to push to make her look like a villain. So anything I hear when it comes to Danielle Smith at this point, I take with a grain of salt. I'll do as much digging as I can to try and find information on that stuff. Again, I've spoke with her people, and I've had conversations where, you know, I want to get her on the channel, but I don't think she's going to be taking many interviews between now and the election. It's crunch time. So we'll see where that goes. But in terms of physically talking to Danielle on the stream, I don't think that's going to happen, at least anytime soon. It may happen after the election, but I don't want to promise anything prior, because I don't see her coming onto this little channel, no matter who I am, to talk about politics when she's heavy under fire like she currently is. I think they're being very strategic about who they talk to and what they say. Despite being in touch with her people, I'm not going to push for that. It's the Western political way. Yeah, it's not just use the money. So fear is often used as a weapon when it comes to politics. Fear is a great tool. We've seen it used over the last 7 years. We've seen it used with George Bush in the early 2000s when 9/11 happened. I firmly believe that part of what secured his second term was using fear for people that if they didn't vote for him, I believe, was it John Kerry he ran against then? I think it was John Kerry. That if people didn't vote for him, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying John Kerry was a better candidate, but I think he used fear to his benefit, that if you don't throw him votes, bad things were going to happen again. And you see a lot of that in Canada right now with Trudeau saying, well, we're going to have, now it's going to be a climate emergency. It's going to be, first it was the COOF and now it's the climate. Now it's all these other things. I'm curious what's going to happen when the economy tanks, when the housing market implodes, and it's coming. I often tell my friends who are thinking about getting into the real estate market, don't, because things are going to change. I got a feeling it's going to get ugly. I was actually talking to Clyde about that on the weekend. So maybe we'll get some videos talking about those things as well this week, if I can. But I definitely want to get on Hinshaw and Bonnie Henry, because my God, what a mess that's going to be. It was John Kerry. Okay, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot going on, guys, and we got lots of ground to cover. And you know what? I'm really grateful for you guys coming here to check that out. So I hope you enjoy what we have coming this week. I hope you guys have a great time with that as we wrap up this stream. Thank you to everybody who came in. Thank you for everybody who gave your 2 cents. And I really appreciate anybody who took the time to listen. I hope you guys have a great week as we bring you the hits and bring you the content you want to see on the channel. And we'll maybe make these Sunday night hangouts a thing. I think I'll try to do these Sunday night hangouts regularly before I film my content for the week, so that we can talk about what's coming. We can talk about what's happened, kind of do a in review, so to speak. If you guys like that, let me know down below. Put a comment in afterwards on the video. Let me know what you think as we move ahead with the channel. I hope that you guys stay safe this week. Stay healthy. Stay away from all the nonsense. Don't buy into the BS. There's 3 sides to every story. Theirs, the other person's, and mine. Come back for mine. You guys have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.